Even though Trump at one point called the Epstein files controversy a hoax and has consistently tried to get that issue off the table, the Epstein files scandal will menace Trump again. His Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick sits for a transcribed closed-door interview with members of the House Oversight Committee, and you better believe we're going to hear a lot from the people in the room before and after that interview, and it could be very soon. We see and hear what Howard Lutnick said. The administration has been taking a lot of heat consistently over what the survivors say is the mishandling of the files, the partial release, even though federal law required the full release of the Epstein case files. But Lutnick in particular has been a problem politically for the president on the Epstein files issue. Lutnick famously in a 2025 interview said he cut ties with Epstein decades ago, outraged or offended by things he heard Epstein say or things he saw in Epstein's home. The two were neighbors.
So his house is like super big, really wide. And so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Really?
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
But then the batch of files released by the administration showed some emails, allegedly between the two men, Epstein and Lutnick, in 2012. 7 years after he allegedly cut off ties and years after Epstein's first criminal case. So this will be an issue. And Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have been spoiling for a chance to talk to Howard Lutnick.
After telling quite a tale about how he was so turned off by Epstein that he told his wife he never wanted to see Epstein again, we learned later that he in fact did go to Epstein's Island and had lunch on Epstein's Island. He flat out lied to the American people. Why did he lie? And if he lied about that basic fact of going to the island, what else has he lied about with respect to his relationship with Epstein?
The reason I decided to come is because this is a very important deposition tomorrow. Howard Lutnick had a decades-long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that he has lied about that relationship publicly and has been caught lying about that relationship. They were friends, they were neighbors, they traveled together, and he's been caught in lies about that. So my line of questioning will focus on that.
Stirring the pot further, complicating life more for Trump is what Marjorie Taylor Greene said on an open microphone a few days ago, talking about how she was pushed back upon by Trump when she tried to talk about the Epstein files and Epstein survivors.
We spent 8 weeks shut down. Remember that? We spent 8 weeks shut down. By the way, that was to stop the Epstein resolution from getting a House vote. That's what that shutdown was about. Finally, they reopened the government and a brand new Democrat member of Congress was sworn in, and we got the 218th signature, released the resolution, passed it overwhelmingly, which was hilarious to me, watching all these Republicans. Oh yeah, all of a sudden I'm voting to release the Epstein files, what a pathetic joke. Weak men. Oh my gosh, they're so weak.
And for the Epstein survivors, it has been a constant, kinetic fight to be heard inside the administration. They have been fighting for years to get copies of their files, of records they need. And they say they've been turned out in the cold by the administration, and they continue to push and push.
Look, this is going to be a very important part of our investigation. And it's also really important that we hear directly from survivors. And so at the center of our hearing is really going to be giving the survivors an opportunity in their own words and in a hearing format to be able to share their stories and put them into the record and to be able to answer questions from the committee. Now, we have been saying for many months that it's important that at the end of the day, this is about centering the survivors and their stories. We've also heard that people want to hear these stories in a hearing format. Republicans have up to now refused to do so. And so we're hosting this hearing in Palm Beach, one of the key locations in this investigation, to allow these survivors to tell their stories and to hear, of course, from others. It's also important to note that there is so much reporting about what was actually happening at Mar-a-Lago and the connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, all of the work that so many lawyers put in place to then only get overturned by Alex Acosta, the then U.S. attorney in the actual prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein, that we feel that this hearing in Palm Beach is going to be an important moment in this broader investigation.
There's also perhaps a broader conversation about where are the priorities? If the Epstein survivors don't feel heard, don't feel like they are a priority inside the Department of Justice, well, what is a priority? I could tell you the James Comey seashells by the seashore case has been a priority. He's back in court on Monday. The case has been dunked on left and right by people who think this is not worth their time.
The case is going to be thrown out. I can almost guarantee you. We're talking about seashells on a beach. That's what that picture is that Comey posted. Remember, this is the president who threatened the death penalty for General Mark Milley, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is the same guy who told crowds at his, at his rallies that, that protester, punch him, take him down. This president is guilty of inciting violence, and now he's using the First Amendment. He's going after people for exercising their First Amendment rights and claiming that they're the ones who are attacking people. I mean, he applauded the death of Robert Mueller, who is a patriot. So I'm disgusted by what this administration is doing, by what the DOJ is doing. Todd Blanche seems to be doing more of what Pam Bondi was doing. This whole administration seems full of people who are just following whatever this demented president tells them to do.
You're someone who's prosecuted over 100 mob family members. Does 86 mean murder in mob parlance? Tell us.
Well, Caitlin, there was a point in my life where I spent the better part of my waking hours either talking face to face with real world mobsters or listening to them talk to each other over wiretaps or body wires or bugs. I dealt with all 5 families: Gambino, Genovese, Bonanno, Lucchese, Colombo. I dealt with bosses, underbosses, consigliaries, capos, soldiers, associates, all the way down the line. Never, ever, not once did I hear any real world gangster use the term 86 to refer to a murder or anything. And God knows these guys had colorful lingo, but never that phrase 86. I don't know where the president got this from. He said from some movie. They don't use that term in Godfather or Sopranos or Goodfellas, maybe some way old-timey movie, but that's not reality. The other piece of the interview you did, Caitlin, with the president in the Oval Office that I found really interesting, when you asked that follow-up, did you truly believe your life was in danger? The first thing he said was, probably, I don't know. And then he sort of eventually said, well, I guess so, yeah. Probably, I don't know, right there, that's an acquittal, because prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the victim believed that his life was in jeopardy. And if the jury comes back at probably, I don't know, that's a not guilty right there. I thought that was a really important moment.
Please continue to comment, share, and subscribe. And if you know somebody who's looking for independent journalism that is unfiltered, not controlled by legacy and corporate media, please encourage them to subscribe as well. Among the comments we got from our reporting on the judicial nominees who refused to acknowledge that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Got a lot of feedback about that. From Bag of Hammers said, if Trump won in 2016 and won in 2020, as he claims he did, then his current term is illegitimate. And Ruby Brown wrote that those judicial nominees, the 44 of them who refused to acknowledge the 2020 election results, simply should not be confirmed. Please keep your comments coming. They help us know what to chase and what to pursue. Really want to thank you for watching. You can comment, share, and subscribe for exclusive reporting, breaking news, 365 days a year, right here.